Good evening. My name is Emily Zinn, and I'm the Associate Director of the Carsey Wolf Center, and it is my great pleasure to welcome actress Robin Weigert to the Pollock Theater to talk about her work on Deadwood. So I want to start first with talking about how you came to Deadwood as a project. I know you were working as a stage actress,
yes.
And then what appealed to you about Deadwood?
Oh, well, I just have to say there was really no chance I was ever going to get this part. I mean, it was I had nothing on tape. You know, I had nothing. I had no reel. I had nothing. I had done one Dick Wolf appearance because he guested here recently, and I was just sort of traumatized witness of a gun shooting in Central Park in an episode of Law and Order, and that was it.
Wow.
That was all I had, and I had done a lot of theater, but in Los Angeles, I don't know that really gets you very far. Typically, if that's all you've done. So I was just very lucky with this. I think the material was clearly pretty great.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say this is one of the most expertly written shows. I mean, I didn't really even realize how rare the experience was until I stepped off of that show into the world of just acting for television.
Said, nothing else is written like this.
It was so rare, and what an amazing, essentially first experience it was, and really a gift. So yeah. It's funny you say what made you respond to the script, as if I'm an A-list actor sitting looking at all these scripts and going, I think maybe I'll choose that one. That was not that time in my life at all. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the idea of being in a Western. So
Yes.
much of the rest of your work has been in urban and suburban settings, but this is a real classic Western in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So what was different about being in a Western than acting in other kinds of shows? And also, what do you think why does the Western continue to appeal to us?
Well, I think this particular Western is David Milch's love letter to America. I mean, it's very, very specific, and it's very unlike other Westerns, although it has some of the tropes and familiar, obviously there's a Wild Bill Hickok, and there are all kinds of familiar things, but I think what we're seeing is how out of the soup, the chaos of a sort of lawless place, you sort of necessity have to start to assemble things around a concept of law and order, but it's not like there's law and order first.
Right.
This tense relationship you saw in this episode, which was episode 2, I guess that hasn't been shown to anybody watching on that, but you feel the tension between the lawman and the saloon keeper, who's sort of the saloon keeper, this chaotic man is the organizer of that community at the beginning, even though he's vicious, and he's particularly vicious when we first meet him, and he gets somewhat more civilized as time goes on, and of necessity, because he's forming an alliance with the lawman in order to create a civilization where he can take people's money.
So really the idea that this is about a community sort of constituting itself, figuring out its rules.
Yes, figuring out its rules and figuring out how essentially it can function so that a version of capitalism can function, right? And it's an interesting take on the way we might have begun.
Right. And so it seems like the continuing appeal in some way is that we want to keep telling ourselves these stories about.
Well, I think we're trying to understand what we are constantly, and what we are keeps changing. So I think we're actually hungry for narratives right now that give us a better picture of what we are, what we've become, because it's morphing, it's changing. There's right before our eyes, our country's changing significantly. So
having Deadwood get revived in this moment is really an interesting political moment for it to come back.
It was an interesting time to return to it. It was the only time we possibly could return to it when we did the film, and I'm so grateful it was able to happen, just for the sake of closure and us finding each other again. It was a passionate, beautiful experience to come back and be with each other. But it is also an interesting time to return to the Western, to this Western.
Right.
Yeah.
this question of what constitutes us as a community when they're
yeah, and of
Nice.
course Hearst, who had gotten to be he was sort of the bad guy who ran off into the sunset, who rode off into the sunset, which is a bit the anti-Western, right? Usually
Right.
the hero wins, and that's where the series had left off. Was Hearst sort of won,
Yeah.
and in a way,
Escape.
even though that wasn't when the series was meant to end, what a sort of perfect ending. That the bad guy sort of won, really, but then coming back and getting that just to tell him off,
Right,
to tell him, get the hell
To have
out.
him
We're
get
a
his
community.
comeuppance.
We're a community. We love one another. Get the hell out of here. There was something cathartic about doing it. Yeah.
which we're all kind of hungry for right
Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
now.